Welcome to week 4, everyone. I'm excited for this week because we're going to be covering some pretty foundational theories and approaches to career development that are still used today, readily used today. So we're going to be going over work adjustment theory, the Holland type theory, and then the Myers Briggs type theory approach. So this also will go into the strong interest inventory and the Myers Briggs type indicator. So that's relevant for your autobiography assignment that's coming up. And I sent announcements out last week an announcement out last week on directions for how to do the strong interest inventory and the Myers Briggs type indicator. So I'll address that a little bit later too. Okay, before I do that though, I wanted to briefly go over a few things in the SHARF text. Overall, I think the SHARF text is very strong, a helpful guide and resource in learning about career development. Sometimes I kind of disagree or see it differently, I guess, with some of the case examples. So the counseling examples, I think sometimes the counselors in that tend to be a little more directive and using lots of closed-ended questions. There we go. So that's not all the time. Some of them are much more like kind of facilitative, using the counseling skills, using paraphrase, using open-ended questions, using reflection of feelings. But I just want you to be kind of mindful of what you notice about those counseling examples, and always remembering to utilize those basic and important foundational counseling skills in career development work. Okay, so that's the main thing that I wanted to bring up about that. So the discussion posts, I think we had another strong week of discussion with going over all the career information resources. I guess this is a continuation of my thoughts on the SHARF counseling examples, but I just wanted to encourage you all, even when it comes to career information exploration with clients, that still doesn't turn into a directive, just like kind of talking at lecturing format with clients. A lot of times, and some of you really mentioned this in discussion boards, and I really appreciated it, was, we can look at this information collaboratively. We can talk about it. We can see what the information means to them, see how, the career information that they're reading, the clients that are reading, how does it connect to their values, their personality, their interests, their what sources of energy in their life. So I think, and that all is, those discussions are facilitated through the core counseling skills. So no matter what, I think, facilitating that person-centered, like self-insight process is really helpful in career development work, even when the focus is information. Because if we just become information heavy and only looking at information, then I think we lose out on the insights that are occurring and really exploring those and helping the clients make meaning of that. All right. Yeah, that's like that's what I preach all the time, I guess, with career development work, that it's just because sometimes it covers information doesn't mean that it is transactional. It can still be transformational. It can still be facilitated with deeper level insight. And to me, I think it needs that. If clients are really going to find a sense of direction and, purpose in their careers. All right, so shifting to the assessments, the strong interest inventory and the Myers Briggs Type Indicator. So go to the announcement from last week. I have instructions of how to access the assessment so that you can fill it out. Some of you already have, great. If you have taken the assessments within the last 3 years and you have those results still, you don't need to retake it again. You can just use those results that you already have. But also there's a career assessment link in module 4. So you can find those instructions there in that link. And when you click the link, it should jump you over to the assessment page, website page. So either one, you can go to the announcement, you can go to the career assessment link in module 4. They both should take you to the career assessments. If you have any issues accessing those, please reach out to me. I strongly recommend that you do that soon. We still have a little bit, about a month or so before the autobiography papers due, but I think it's helpful to get these assessments done now so that you can have time to reflect on the results and start writing up, your thoughts on the autobiography and integrating those assessments due to them being requirements that you bring in the results of the strong interest inventory and the Myers Briggs Type Indicator. So, yeah, once again, let me know if you have any thoughts or questions there. I wanted to go over both of those assessments. So please be sure to read through chapters 4 through 6 this week. Hopefully you're always reading the material, and just in preparation for understanding the strong interest inventory and the Myers Briggs Type Indicator. Chapter 5 is on the Holland codes, which is the strong interest inventory. That's where it draws from. Chapter 6 is the MBTI, the Myers Briggs theory. So read that information. I'm going to, for those of you who already took the assessments or will be taking the assessments soon, I'm going to release those results to you starting on Wednesday night, because hopefully that'll give you time to read through the Scharf text and the article by Kronholz. But particularly those chapters 5 and 6 will be relevant for the assessment. So I want to give you time to read through that so that when you're looking at the results, it makes sense. It's not just kind of taking it out of context. Let's see here. One thing to notice or to just be aware of as you're looking at your strong interest inventory and Myers Briggs Type Indicator results is they're usually like a funnel. So at the start of the assessments, it's starting really broad. It's starting with like, what are the Holland codes? What are the types, the Raya set codes? If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you will soon when you read those chapters. So it starts kind of broad picture of like, what are these codes? So you're kind of just describing the theory slightly to the clients, and the same with the Myers Briggs Type Indicator. What are these personality dichotomies? But then it starts to get more specific. Okay, so now what does it mean for you and your career direction? What are careers that start to match with your personality type, with your interests? And like the strong interest inventory even gets really specific into, going into each type and talking about, careers that like scales for every single career that's in that code. So you'll see those in the results. I get kind of excited because it's kind of cool. I think it's a cool assessment, when the client needs that self-insight of those interests or personality. I think it can give them a lot of information, a lot of things to consider. So yeah, it starts to really narrow down, gives you lots of career, options. Like I was saying about the strong interest inventory, it even gets into like college majors that might be applicable to their personality type, clubs that they could be a part of to get, more experience and learn more. So just some things to be thinking about. And let me see here. One major thing to be considering when you're doing these assessments is when you see a specific career on there, it's not saying that you should pursue that career. It's just saying, based on your type, you may have a likelihood of connecting in that, career environment. Even if there's like a strong connection or like it's high interest in that area, it doesn't mean that you will like it. It's just saying, it's just matching you. So once again, that matching approach isn't like a perfect science for every single person. And even both assessments are going to give you like lists of occupations. The strong interest inventory will give you a top 10 list. That doesn't mean you're number one. Like if you're not pursuing that, if it doesn't say counselor, then you're in the wrong field. No, it doesn't mean that at all. And the instructions in the strong interest inventory and the Myers Briggs Type Indicator go over that. But I think if people aren't reading all the details, then they'll miss that and they'll maybe misinterpret. That's why it's so important to go over these results with your clients and for you all to read the information about the theories first before you're looking at it. So in the end, they provide possibilities. And I really want to encourage you to take the time to read the assessments, read kind of the descriptions before you, just jump on to, seeing all the lists and everything. It'll just help you understand better. Okay. So obviously we're going to be focusing on you and, your assessments, but I want to encourage you to also be thinking about what might this be like for the client to be receiving these results and to be having them interpreted with their career counselor. Sometimes the idea might be like, oh, the counselor just is going to teach everything about these, results. They're going to kind of lecture at the client. Obviously that's not the intended process with interpreting these assessments. It's very much so a collaborative process. So kind of one pattern that I think has been helpful for me in interpreting a lot of these assessments is, giving a short description and then having a discussion with the client, seeing, how does it fit for them? Do they feel that, these results are meaningful or relevant? Why or why not? Kind of, and then having that, using those core counseling skills to kind of help them make sense of what they're thinking and feeling. So for example, even like when you'll see on the strong interest inventory that it shows you information about, all of the Holland codes, the 6 Holland codes, the realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. So usually I would describe what all of those mean. But then I wouldn't just go through all of them at the same time. I'd maybe go over 2 or 3 of those codes, then pause and say, what are your thoughts? Do you have any questions? How does this seem to be like resonating with you? So then that would kind of spark the discussion. And when that kind of discussion fizzled out or kind of run its course, then we move on. So it's very much so a short description and then helping them interpret it, kind of interpreting with them what it means in their frame of reference. Okay. Overall, when you get those results, please reach out with any questions you have about the results. If there's strong reactions in you, please reach out about that too. I was trying to figure out the best way with an asynchronous course to make sure I support you well enough in understanding these results. So that's why, I'm submitting the assessments back midweek. So you have time to read through the chapters first. So you have the background. I tried to, kind of provide some thoughts on career assessment in this video. But if there's specific, reactions or questions or just thoughts and discussion you want to have, let's chat in office hours via Zoom. I'd love to. Love to help you really understand this well, so that you can understand it for client's sake. All right, the last thing that I want to go over is really briefly on the Kronholz article. So that article is pretty cool and helpful as well, because it's all a case example. It's a case study, and it integrates the Holland types. So I think it provides some pretty helpful thoughts on, how elements of the strong interest inventory, the Holland types, how they can inform, how you think about a client. So they provide a conceptual framework, the Holland codes do, and the Holland types. So they kind of help you be able to kind of organize, okay, based on what they're saying, they may have interests in this, area, this social type. So it can kind of, then you're better aware of like, how might I intervene? How might I help the client make sense of who they are, what they might want to do in a career environment? I just had some questions too when I was reading through the article. The article didn't specifically state this, but I was left wondering, according to this case, what is the purpose of career counseling? Another thought is like, what is the implicit message about what career counselors do or should do? What's the message about what career counselors help facilitate for clients? And, the example, the Kronholz article, I think it was a little more, on the cognitive side and on kind of decision-making focused. That's not bad. That's not the only way, the only right way. It's just a way. But I think, asking ourselves, according to this approach, what's the purpose of career counseling? According to this approach, what are the messages about what's the role of the career counselor? Then you can start to kind of get, okay, what's informing this approach? What is this approach? How does it differ from other approaches? So I think asking those kind of foundational questions of like, what is the purpose of career counseling according to this approach? I think that question in particular really highlights what are the values of the approach, what are the belief systems, and the framework of how career counseling progresses. Let's see. I think that's what I'll kind of focus on most with the Kronholz article. It's pretty helpful too to just be thinking about the 3 levels of service delivery depending on the client's needs. So they talk about a direct approach, with the career counseling, a brief approach, or even just a self-help. That can be helpful in any counseling setting. So the University of Wyoming, their counseling center, just for mental health counseling for students, they use that like service delivery approach of like assessing right from the very get-go of working with a client. Like the counselor would determine, oh, maybe they just need self-help. Maybe they can use these just resources that we have online that will meet their needs. Maybe they need a brief intervention, 3 to 5 sessions. Maybe there's more of a longer term need that they have. So I think that can be helpful no matter what setting you're in, whether it's school, mental health, or what, or wherever you want to end up. But thinking about that, I think, can be helpful. Okay, so yeah, just in conclusion, I'm really excited for this week. I'm excited to see how you see yourself, where you see yourself in the Myers Briggs Type Indicator, in the strong interest inventory, and in work adjustment theory too. I didn't talk as much about work adjustment theory in this video, obviously, but I did in the written lecture because I think it's a great approach. I really appreciate the focus that it has on values and on abilities. So yeah, I think this is a cool week for you to be able to be thinking of who you are, thinking of, what interests do you have? What is your personality? And kind of self-assessing, and maybe even before you see your assessment results, be thinking about, be self-assessing what codes or types do I feel that I, connect with? And then we'll see if the career assessment results are similar or different. So yeah, I appreciate the discussion. Keep reaching out if you have any questions. Happy to engage with you, and I look forward to another great week.